We'll see how this goes.
Awesome. All right, y'all don't care about wires in front of me, do you? All right, so we're excited to be here. I'm excited. And that music that was playing there, we get excited. This is kind of our sports fall time of the year, time to get excited and pumped up. And we see this time a year when we get so excited. And that's from the kids' point of view. The parents' point of view maybe is a little bit different because you're at the football field from daylight to dark, right? And we get exhausted. And usually what ends up happening is you cannot wait till the end of the season so you can say, thank God we get to rest now. We finally get to quit. And we experience this all the time through our lives. That like, things start out going smooth and great, and then it gets a little bit hard and difficult, and we end up quitting. We finally hit a point where we hit a wall that, you know what, it's too hard. Now, I've got a good friend of mine. He's here with us today, Josh Sparkman, and he is my workout partner. We go to the gym 3-4 days a week, and we play basketball, and we're pushing weights. And it's funny, because at the beginning of the year, what you see inside the gyms is they're full. They are, in January and February, and maybe some of you are all those people, and they're full. So you go to January and February at the gyms, and they're running the mile on the treadmill, and they're riding those exercise bikes. And after the first week or two, you never see them again. And they're like, it's gone. Because they had this mindset, okay, beginning of the year, I got a New Year's resolution, I'm gonna lose weight, I'm gonna look like that supermodel, or the guys are saying, I'm gonna have, the washboard abs. No, I don't have them either. So anyway, we had these goals and these dreams, and whenever you get inside there, it gets a little bit difficult. So it's easier to quit than it is to keep going. We do the same thing with diets. We set on a diet, we say, hey, I want to start on a diet, and I'm going to lose 20 pounds, before summer gets here. And it's great, you do good until your mama makes a cake that melts in your mouth. You know what I'm talking about? That cake, it's so good. It's pretty wicked awesome. And you're like, man, I got to eat it. And then there, bam, your diet is it's over with. Well, I ate that. I might as well go ahead and eat a bag of Oreos now. And man, next thing you know, you gained all the weight back that you already lost. We quit. And we got people quitting on stuff all the time, whether it be marriage or whether it be their jobs or whether they're quitting on their kids. And we quit. So we had this idea, this till I collapse, that what if we didn't quit? What if we set out to do every single thing that we done, that we were going to uphold our jobs and we're going to be with our families, and we're going to be the men and women that we're supposed to be. Our marriages, yeah, it's going to be tough, but I'm going to give it my all, and I am not going to stop until I collapse. I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to give up. I am not going to stop until my body can literally not go any further. I'm going to give it my very best. Now today we have my very best friend here today, is my wife. And tomorrow we celebrate our 13-year anniversary. We married 13 years. I think that's awesome. So she has put up with me for 13 years, and I most definitely have put up with her for 13 years. It gets tough. And we said a long time ago, before we finally said those vows, that you know what? I'm going to give it my very best. I'm not going to quit. I'm going to give it my very best. We got married to do stuff together, not separate, so we do it together. And it don't matter what it is. I've been to baby showers. I don't go to wedding showers anymore. That's awkward. Don't do that anymore. Don't go to no bridal showers. But everything else I pretty much go to. We do it together. And we got this mindset that we are going to give it our all. We're not going to quit. There's no divorce word thrown around. We're going to give it our very best. We're not going to stop until we just collapse. There's absolutely nothing left. So I want to ask you this question as we get started. Have you ever quit on something? That you set on this goal, you set on this dream, this ambition, and you quit when you still had more fight inside of you. Now to help you put in this context, I mentioned Josh Sparkman, my gym buddy. Usually we're spotting each other, and what that really means is that you may be on one of these machines and they're sitting behind you and pushing you to do more and to do more. And then I'll be thinking, man, I cannot lift this weight up anymore. And he's behind me and he's like, yeah, you got this, just one more. And I finally get that one more. He said, all right, now one more, just one more. And man, I can't. And then next thing you know, I'm giving it more. And he said, yeah, I knew you had it in you. And he tells me that. I knew you had that in you. I knew you had one more in you. Do we have one more inside of us? Because we quit. We quit on stuff. And then, till we're to the point where we're right there on the floor. Have you ever quit on something? I'm to the point to where you just quit. You just gave up. Whether it be your job, whether it be your family, whether it be your spouse. And you just said, you know what? I'm done. Have you quit? Because God did not call us to be quitters. We're not quitters. We don't quit. We don't whine. What would happen if we could get this mindset of godly principles that we could do anything? Now, Tony said something in his introduction, that with God nothing is impossible. Do we believe that? Because if we believe that, then nobody should be quitting nothing, right? We're going to give it our very best. Now, don't get me wrong. Life is hard. It's tough. But what if we don't quit? So what we're going to do, we're going to spend the next 4 weeks, we're going to be talking about this very thing. How we can come up with these, how can we find out these godly principles that we can give it our very best and not quit. Now I've seen people fall guilty of this, like, you know what, I'm going to give my kids my very best. So they'll pour all they've got into their kids, and then they forget about their spouse. It's all about the kids. And that's a dangerous place to be. I'm talking about giving everything, all that you've got. What can you do when you set out on a goal that you will not quit until it's done? Give it your very best. Your very best. In the book of Nehemiah, if you have your Bibles, we're going to turn to the book of Nehemiah, and this is an awesome story. I love this. Because I want you to overcome this. I don't want you to stay, well, you know what? It's easier for me just to stay here and do nothing than it is to go on and finish it. It's easier. We're going to finish what we start. This is an application we teach our kids. If you start something, you're going to finish it. Be finishers and not quitters. And in the book of Nehemiah, there's so many of these principles you can draw from. Now, I went through this, I'm going to sum a little bit of this up, but listen to this first verse, it's amazing. It's Nehemiah chapter 1, and I love this. And it says, in the late autumn, in the month of Kislev. Now again, this is written a long time ago. So this month, Kislev, if you're wondering when that is, that'd be around November, December time. So the month of Kislev, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes' reign, I was at the fortress of Susa. Hananiah, one of my brothers, came to visit me with some other men who had just arrived. I asked them about the Jews who had returned there from captivity and about how things were going in Jerusalem. They said to me, things are not going well for those who returned from the province of Judah, for they are in great trouble and disgrace. The wall of Jerusalem has been torn down, and the gates have been destroyed by fire. When I heard this, I sat down and wept. In fact, for days I mourned, fasted, and prayed to the God of heaven. All right, now, to sum this up a little bit, the Israelites in this nation, they were in captivity. And they were captives. They had become slaves. They had been removed from their homeland. Some of them had been freed where they could go back home. And when they went back home, they found that their city walls had been torn down. They found that their church, the temple of God, it had been destroyed. So they made a makeshift temple, and they left the walls unrepaired because it's such a great job. So this man, Nehemiah, he asked this guy, he said, hey, tell me about my country. How is it going there? And then the words that he says here, he says, they're not going well. They're in disgrace. The walls are torn down. Nobody's doing nothing. And this hurt him. And I want you to look, when he got this news, if you see this, what he did. He got this news about his hometown, his country. He got this news, and the first thing that he does is that he sits down. He sits down and he weeps. And it says he mourned. He mourned because the walls were torn down. He mourned. This is so distraught, so upset, so concerned that he sat down and he wept and he mourned. And that doesn't kind of fit well with us, right? Because we're the go-getters. If we see a problem, we need it done right then, right there. But that is often the time that we mess up the most. We have a knee-jerk reaction to something. Have you ever had somebody make a comment to you, and the first thing you do, you just spit off the first thing off your tongue? We all do that. Let me give you an example. One Sunday morning, long time ago, as a matter of fact, it was about 20 years ago, on a Sunday morning, we were getting ready for church at my house. My dad was a pastor of a church, and we were getting ready, just like we all do. And that morning, I was in my room with the door shut, and I remember I had the radio on, and I was listening to Metallica. My dad came in, and he was saying if I was close to getting ready, he just opened the door, and he just looked at me, and he said, "Son, I don't really like your choice of music." And I said, "That's okay, Dad. I really don't like yours either." He should have beaten me, but all my dad did is he just shut the door and walked away. Out of respect, I turned it off because I couldn't believe what I said to my dad. He's got forearms like an ape. I mean, you just don't do that. I mean, he's here today too, my dad is. It's awesome. Man, I just spit that off. Again, it's a knee-jerk reaction. And we do this. We'll see somebody, or like, man, I know I'm going to lose weight. I'm starting tonight. And we'll clear out all the Oreos, all the cookies and all that, but we don't have a plan. We jump in it too soon, and the next thing you know, without a plan, we fail. Anytime we start something without a plan, you're planning to fail. Every time. You need a plan. This is what me and my wife did when we got married. We need a plan, so we set an action plan. Okay, what we're going to do is, first thing we're going to do, we're going to get a house. So we started working, we built a house, and then we said, hey, we're going to get a baby. As a matter of fact, we found out, we moved in our house in September, we found in October we was going to have a baby. It was crazy. And then we didn't quit making babies for several years, so it's awesome. That was our plan. And then that's what we're going to do. Set a plan. When you set a plan in, you've got some guidelines to go by. And that's what he does. He doesn't jump the gun. He just sits down and he pours his heart out to God. What am I going to do? What can we do about this situation? And just going over it in his mind, I mean, we don't go to the bank and get a loan for a house without first having a house to something we want. Or you want to build a house, you're going to build a house, that's great. Now let's set an action plan. Okay, the first thing we need money. We need money. We set a plan. Too many times we just jump into it. And what we often do is we make a mess of things. Parents are really good at doing this with their older kids who may have been married, and we try to jump in there and help them too quick. They got to figure it out. He sat down. He's so tore up over this, but yet he sits down. And I just thought, man, this is amazing. He is so distraught over this, and he just sits down. But this one word puts it in the context of how upset he was, and that's the word, he mourned. He was so upset over this that he mourned, and he cried, and he did this for days, guys. He didn't do it just for an hour. He did this for days. Crying over his nation, crying over the walls being torn down, crying out to God, God, what can we do about this? First thing I want you to get out of this is that don't jump too soon. He didn't jump too soon. He sat down and he waited and he called out on God. You want to succeed? Have a plan. Don't jump too soon. Don't just jump the gun and say, all right, let's do this. Because if that's your reaction, I guarantee you that you're going to have more arguments in your family. I guarantee you you're going to be broke and no money because you're just going to say, hey, let's go out to eat, let's go out to eat, let's go out to eat. And next thing you know, you end of the month or end of the week, you have no money. You have no plan. Be calm, be patient. Sit down. Don't jump too soon. There's things that's going to happen. That's why you need to be calm, collective. This is why I admire my brother, because I'm the person who just wants to jump up and get it done, not my brother. He is the picture person of what Nehemiah would be here. He's so calm. I can be a nervous wreck, and I can come up to my brother, and he's like, okay, no big deal. I mean, if you can just understand, he has a precious wife, Leanne, and if you can just understand, here's me my brother's picture. If the house was on fire, here's what my brother would do. He would softly go up to his wife and wake her up, Leanne, honey, the house is on fire, you might want to get out. And she would be running out the door because she's like me. And she'd be running out the door. My brother had said, now listen, I want to probably get my uniforms because I got to go to work tomorrow. We need the coffee pot. And he would just, that's my favorite movie. He would just be carrying his stuff out. Easy going. That he can do that. I cannot. I would be screaming like a little baby, running out. I would just grabbing my kids by the toes and I would get them out of there. Not my brother. He's amazing. Guys, and I know that's kind of funny, but we don't jump too soon. We got to think things through. And this is exactly what he does. He sits down and he thinks this through. When he heard this, I sat down and wept. In fact, for days I mourned and fasted and prayed. And that's the second thing. How passionate are you about quitting? How passionate are you about starting something? How passionate are you about your marriage? Or how passionate are you about lifting weights and going to the gym? We got these signs up here. We got gym rooms and yoga. It's pretty fun. There's another sign over here. Don't drop the weights on the floor. The only difference between good and great is one more rep. That's for Josh. How bad do you want it? How bad do you want to succeed? How bad do you want your family to be awesome? How bad do you want your Christmas this year for everybody to get along and for nobody to fight and argue? How bad do you want to get out of debt? How bad do you want you and your spouse to be on your honeymoon again? How bad do you want it? Because I want you to look at what he did. We're going to read this verse again, okay? This is verse 4. We're going to read this again. He said, when I heard this, I sat down and wept. In fact, for days I mourned, fasted, and prayed to the God of heaven. When he heard this, not only did he sit down and he wept and he mourned, but he fasted and he prayed. Now you see these two words together all throughout the Bible, fasting and prayer. Fasted and pray. Are you so concerned about what you want to accomplish? Are you so concerned that you're willing to do these two things? To fast and to pray. That you want the best for your kids so much that you're willing to fast and pray for them. That you want your parents, you just want them to gain wisdom, that you can take care of them when they get older. Or with your marriage, that you want it so bad to succeed that you're willing to fast and to pray for your spouse. Fast and prayer. Fasting and prayer. Now, you understand what fasting is we go without substance, we go without food, and you can fast other things. You can fast television, or you can fast Facebook if you can do without it. Whatever it is to fast. The point is that you're going to withdraw something, and you're going to spend that time getting close to God. That instead of that time you'd be eating, or every time you belly growl, you're going to open up the Bible. You're going to see what God has to say for you. You're going to pray. If you're not willing, if you're not passionate enough to pray for what you want to achieve, then you're not passionate enough. You don't want it that bad. You want it, but you want it that bad. Now look at what he did. I mean, for days he did this. For days. I can barely go 2 hours without eating. Could you imagine not eating for days? But yet that's what he did. All because he wanted it that bad. He was so wanting his country to succeed. So that's the second thing I want you to get from this. Are you passionate enough to pray? That you want your family, you and your wife just to come together, to be like it used to, that you got to just set a fire and amongst each other. That your kids will grow up and that not only would they make lots of money to take care of you, but they would find true happiness, that they would rest their faith and trust in God. Do you want that bad enough for your kids that you're willing to pray for them? That you would go as much as fasting and prayer for your kids? What about for your own future, for your own success? Because I'm going to be honest with you. The way the country is and our economy, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to retire. I'll probably be working on computers and getting rid of viruses and pulling cables through ceiling probably until I'm 90 years old. And then I'll probably be on a cane and crutches. This year we got a thing from the Social Security retirement thing. And if I retire right now, I'm going to withdraw $101 a month. That's awesome. $101 a month. So once we fill up our Suburban, we would have about $25 left for the month. Ain't that crazy? What's the plan? So what we're doing? Get out of debt, 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 and somehow pay for college. Ain't we all on the same mission? Do you pray about it? Are you that passionate enough to pray about it? Now, I know your kids may be awesome, but the chances of them making it into the big leagues, it's not a whole lot. We've got to have a plan. We've got to invest in them. Are you passionate enough to pray for your kids and their future? Are you passionate enough to pray about your future? Your future. Because ahead, there's going to be obstacles. It's going to be tough. You got decisions to make. You got a future ahead of you. What is out there? Trouble. We all want the vacation. We all want the beach where we can just relax. But I'm telling you, it's like something that's euphoric. You just can't quite obtain it. But when we put our faith and trust in God, we find peace that you cannot find anywhere else. Because your life is more than money. It's more than cars. It's more than name brand on your clothes and what you got written on the back of your jeans. It's worth more than the kind of car you drive and the square footage of your house. Americans now have more things than they ever have, but yet divorce is higher than it's ever been. As a matter of fact, divorce in the church is higher than those that are not in church. Isn't that sad? That's the statistic, the Barnes & Noble research. I'm sorry, not Barnes & Noble, George Barna research. We quit. See, I promised my wife 13 years ago that I would not quit on her. That we'd keep fighting. That we'd keep fighting. So we're together, we pray about this passion. And I want you to look at this. He prayed, and I want you to look at verse 10. Look at this. He just prayed, and he's stating how awesome God is. He said, the people you rescued by your great power and strong hands are your servants. I mean, if you look at just look at what acclamation he's given to God. You rescued your great power. You, by your great power. Why do we think we can do anything without God? Guys, He's awesome. God is so amazing. I mean, we're talking about the God who can take a pile of dirt, talk to it, and somehow form a human being. Now, if that is not awesome, I don't know what is. I'm pretty good at making mud pies. I can barely make a cake, but when you can speak to dirt and make it come together to form a breathing human being, you're awesome. And he's saying, God, you are great. Your power is that awesome. And in his prayer, he is crying that out. That we want that same power to be with us. That same power. And I love that what he says, by your power. Are you willing to pray a prayer like this? That God, I want your great power to encompass me, and it would come to my kids. That you would come within our marriage, and that you would anoint it, that you would bless it. That you would bless our love life. You would bless our enemies, that we can come together and be so close. Because we want to grow old together. He's praying for the power of God to be upon them. Now look at how he closes this. I love this. This is verse 11. He closes this prayer out, and I love it. He says, "Oh Lord, please hear my prayer. Listen to the prayers of those of us who delight in honoring you. Please grant me success today by making the king favorable to me. Put it into his heart to be kind to me." I love this because this man, Nehemiah, he's just like us. He's not a millionaire. He's not a preacher. He's just an ordinary guy. And he closes out this prayer by, God, grant me favor to the king. Now his job was one that was kind of unique. He was the cupbearer, and he tasted wine before the king drank it. So if it killed him, the king knew not to drink it. That wouldn't be a very fun job, but if you like wine, maybe you would like that. Ordinary guy. Grant me favor in front of this king. Just grant me favor. And I want you to see this. This guy, after this, what happens is amazing. The king, He goes up to the king, he tastes his wine and says, hey, this wine's not poisonous. He gives it to the king. And the king looks at him and he says, Nehemiah, what's wrong? You've got a sad face and you never look like that towards me. You're always smiling. You're always smiling. What is off with this today? Something's wrong. And he said, no, I'm fine. He said, no, really, what's wrong? He said, it's my country, king. It's my country. The city walls are in ruin. They're in embarrassment. He said, I'm upset. The temple it's just a makeshift temple. There's no city walls. And he says, how about this? How about this, Nehemiah? How about I send you papers and we just go on? That you make safe travel there. Go to your country. So Nehemiah asks him for safe papers and he gets that. And he says, can I also have a letter so I can have timbers to rebuild? And he said, yeah, I'll grant you that. And so what he ends up having, and all because he cries out to God, the king in this country, they financed the whole thing, rebuilding the wall. Because this one man was so passionate enough that he was willing to fight for his country. He was willing to fight for it. And the king paid for it. They got safe travel to go, and he leaves. And he goes and he organizes these unbelievable, ordinary people, farmers and countrymen. And he organized them. He says, all right, guys, we're going to build this wall. And in 52 days, they built a wall that should have took years in 52 days. And as we go the next couple of weeks and we read this story, you're going to see that they even built this wall with wearing their armor and carrying their swords in one hand. Amazing story. All led by one, what we would consider, ordinary guy. Now I'm looking at you all and y'all look so pretty. Some of you wearing football jerseys and Virginia Tech, and some of you are UT fans. You're sporting that's okay. Some of you got your knives with your dresses on. I mean, you all look fantastic. And here's what I see. Nobody's sticking out to me. That means we're all on the same playing field. We're all ordinary. We're all normal. Just regular people. Going to go to work. Go to the grocery store and have somewhere for us to sleep and prepare food for our family. In a few years, we're going to send our kids off to college. We're all ordinary. We're all normal. And that's what I want you to see with this. He was just an average, normal guy. But he was passionate about wanting his country to succeed. And because he was passionate, he prayed. And he prayed, and he prayed. He didn't just pray just one time. And we're guilty of that. God, I want you to touch my wife. She's driving me crazy. Bam, make it happen. Now, y'all done this. I know you have. God, I have a bill that's due Thursday. I need my power bill paid by Thursday. We'll put a deadline on God. I have never seen God act to ultimatums. Never. Nor have I ever seen God late. He always pushes it to the limit, but I've never seen Him late. Nehemiah was trusting in this God that we worship and serve. But he was passionate about these walls. See, up to this point, God never told Nehemiah. God didn't come down to him and say, Nehemiah, this is God. I want you to rebuild these walls. He never done that. And many of us, we are staying stagnant in our lives waiting for some proclamation to come from God. But I ask you, what are you passionate about? Because whatever you're passionate about, you can accomplish if we will put our faith and trust through God. And this is exactly what Nehemiah does. He puts his trust in Him. And he's an ordinary guy. God uses ordinary people to do amazing things, extraordinary things, and it's all through the Bible. I don't care what kind of Bible you've got. I got my iPad here. Whatever Bible you got, if you look through that, you're going to see fishermen who walk on water. You're going to see a regular person, a shepherd, take down a giant. You look through the Bible, you're going to see this unbelievable man take his staff, and with the power of God, he can part waters. An ordinary guy, just like us. But he's passionate about his country, and he's passionate about God. And when we're passionate about something, and we have the fire and passion of God behind us, we're an unstoppable force. I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, oh, I can't do this. I know there's some great people there, and I can't do this. I've got a couple of people I want you to see. This first slide is a football player I'm kind of fond of. I kind of like this guy. This is RG3. Y'all know him, Washington Redskins, RG3. I like this. Is there anybody else a Redskins fan here other than me? Yeah, I got a couple. Awesome. This is RG3. He's a phenomenal player. He's got a great attitude. He's a professional football player. There's many other great ones. Yeah, this guy, he's awesome. He's awesome at football. Yeah, that's great, but I can never do that. Check out this next guy. I'm sure y'all may know him. This is the Reverend Billy Graham, and here you see him with the President Barack Obama. A minister being with the President. I think that's pretty wicked awesome. And we hold Billy Graham so high. Oh, Billy Graham and Billy Graham and Billy Graham. But guys, if God can do something through Billy Graham, He can do it through me. And if God can do something through Nehemiah, He can do it through all of you. I'm telling you, when we are passionate about something and we're willing to cry out and fast and pray, guys, there's nothing that we can't do. Nothing. Check out this next guy. I'm sure y'all know him. Martin Luther King Jr. An ordinary guy, but led an amazing movement. He saw a need, he was passionate about it, and he done it. That's it. That's it. My question to you, are you passionate enough? Are you passionate enough to do it? Are you passionate enough right now what we're asking to do? Or are you passionate enough to pray? Some of you need to ask yourself this one question. We're coming to an end right now. What you're passionate about, are you willing to fight for it? Are you willing to fight for your marriage? Are you willing to fight for your kids? Are you willing to fight for your future? Are you willing to fight for your aging parents? Are you willing to fight for your job? Because as I look around, I see a whole lot of quitters. I look around through life, and I have people tell me all the time, man, life's tough, this marriage thing, it ain't what I thought it was going to be. It ain't always roses, but I tell you, it's the sweetest thing I've ever done. Are you willing to fight? Are you willing to fight? Growing up, you played basketball, and every time before a game, my mom would give me a pep talk. And she would sit me down, and she'd say, now whose ball is that? And I'd say, that's my ball. She said, no. Whose ball is that? I said, that's my ball. She said, son, whose ball is that? I said, that's my ball. She said, okay, go get it. And she's building me up to go fight for the ball. And so I went and I fought for the ball. Are you willing to fight? Are you willing to fight for it? Are you willing to fight for whatever it is you're passionate about? Some of you have got hopes and dreams and aspirations. Are you willing to fight for them? Because you're never going to achieve them with your hands in your pockets. You're never going to lose the weight unless you change your diet or hit the gym. It's not going to happen. You cannot lose weight eating Twinkies and Oreos. It will not happen, guys. You cannot fight for your marriage sitting on the couch. You cannot fight for your job complaining all the time. Are you willing to fight? Are you willing to fight for it? Now, I use this terminology because when you're in a fight, it means you don't stop until somebody's on the floor. You do not stop. They've got these amazing fights and these cage fights, and these guys are nuts, okay? And I watch this sometimes because they've got muscles that are just like bulging in places that I didn't know muscles came from. And they're covered in tattoos, and they're going in there, and they got this attitude like, this guy, he is going down. I am not quitting until he's going down. And they're talking smack to each other, and they don't quit until somebody's down. But there's one guy who has the option, and he can tap out. Have you seen that? And all he does is he taps out. Are you going to be the guy? Are you going to be the man or woman? Are you going to be the teenager that says, you know what? I'm not going to tap out. I'm not going to tap out on my marriage. I'm not going to tap out on my future. I am going to fight, and I am not going to quit until there's absolutely nothing left. I'm going to give it my all until I am broke. I'm going to give my wife my very best. I'm going to give my kids and my job. I'm going to give it my very best. I am not going to quit. I am going to fight until there's no fight left in me. I'm going to fight with everything that I've got. And I'm going to give it more, and I'm going to give it more, and then when I still ain't got no more, I'm going to dig down deep, but I'm going to give it more. Just like I tell you with my buddy Josh, and he's there and he's spotting me. He's like, oh, man, just one more. And I'm like, man, I ain't got it. Because there's times that I think I've got more, and I just cannot get that weight up, and he is right there to pick it up. This is where God comes in. Because God will only do in your life what you can't. Don't just sit around waiting for God to fix you a bologna sandwich. Mom always told me you got two legs, go fix it yourself. When you ain't got no more fight left in you, this is where God comes in. He'll step right in, grab that weight, and just lift it right up with you still pushing with everything that you've got. The question is, are you willing to fight? Are you willing to fight? Could you imagine if all of us could look? Could you imagine what our homes would be like, what our schools would be like, what this country would be like if we were just willing to fight for what we cared about most? To give it our very best, that we are going to fight till there's nothing left. To fight. All this boils down to this one question: are you willing to fight? Are you willing to fight? I'm going to ask you to bow your head and close your eyes just for a moment. We're going to come to a close. Father God, thank you so much for your word today. I ask now, God, that you'd speak to us and reveal yourself unto us. Many of you here today, and you've been in this battle. You've been going through a battle for so long, and you're coming up against the wall, and you're like, man, it's tough and it's hard. And we're challenging you with this one thing. Are you willing to fight? Are you willing to fight? Are you willing to fight for your marriage? Are you willing to fight for your fiance? Are you willing to fight for your education? Are you willing to fight for your parents? Are you willing to fight for your future? Are you willing to fight for them? That you're not going to spend all your time and all your effort just making money, that you're going to fight for things that matter. Are you willing to fight for the things that you care most about? Are you willing to fight? This morning I'm going to ask you right now, would you make that bold proclamation that you would declare, you know what, I'm going to fight. I'm not a quitter, I'm a fighter. I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight, and I'm going to fight. Heads are bowed and eyes are closed. I'm going to ask you right now, if that's you today, you know that you got something. You know you need to fight for it. I want to pray for you. Would you just slip your hand up and say, you know what? I've got more fight left in me, and I'm going to fight for it. Hands are going up everywhere. There is more left in me. I'm going to fight. I am not going to quit. I am going to fight until there's nothing left. I want to pray for you. Father God, you're awesome and amazing. I pray today, God, that we'll be passionate about the things that you care about, and that our hearts would break for what breaks yours. And today, God, that you'd fill us up with your love and your passion, your fire, your desire, and your zeal. That we would fight, God, for the things that we are most passionate about. I pray for these, God, that say that, you know what, I got more fight left in me. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to quit. I'm going to fight. As you continue to pray, you say you're going to fight. The first thing that I'm going to challenge you to do when you leave here today, and we're going to start it right now, is that you're going to pray. So right now, while it's quiet, would you pray about the things you're most passionate about? Would you pray for the things you're most passionate about? The things right now. Right now. Nehemiah, when he heard this news about his country, the walls tore down, the shape of the temple, he prayed. Right now, would you call that on God and what you're most passionate about? You said you're willing to fight. Now will you pray? Just pray and talk to God right now what you're most passionate about. Right now, just call it on God. Just pray. Father God, we have people that are praying about what they're passionate about. And as they call upon you, God, I pray just like Nehemiah, hear their prayer, God. Give them guidance, give them assurance that you know what you're doing, that we can put our faith and trust in you. And that we're going to give it our very best, God, and leave all the results up to you. So as we pray these prayers, God, may they set a fire down inside of us that we're going to be passionately praying. We're going to fast, and we're going to see this thing through. We're fighters. we're not quitters. As you continue to pray, there's some of you here today that says, you know what, you got to come across the first fight. That you know that between you and God, man, you've not exactly been on speaking terms. That you know you're not where you need to be. And today you can change it all around. That maybe you've been fighting against yourself. But today, you know, I'm going to give my life. I'm going to give my life to Jesus. This is the first fight that I've got to win. And if I want to sit on this road, I have got to do this. And you know exactly who you are. Apart from God, we can do nothing. But with God, all things are possible. And you know exactly who you are. Here today that you're far from God, I'm going to ask right now that you call it on God. That you pray this prayer with me. Would you call on God right now? Just call on God right now and say, Father God, I give you my life. I surrender to you. Take my life, God, and make me brand new. God, I need you. Forgive me of my sins. Thank you for new life. Now you have mine. Nobody's looking around and eyes are closed, heads are still bowed. You prayed that prayer today. I want to pray for you specifically. You prayed that prayer today that you just give your life over to Jesus. Would you just slip your hand up that I may pray for you? That today is the day I did that very prayer. I prayed. Thank you. Hands are going up. Thank you. I want to pray for you. Father God, how awesome you are. And I pray today that you'd fill these guys up, God. That they would see and feel your power of your presence. And that they would be able to continue to give you the very best. And on this new day, this new challenge, God, we're going to fight. And we're not going to quit. We've got this new life inside of us, God, and we're going to leave here fired up and charged up, ready to take on the world. So God, I pray right now that your blessing be upon these who just give you their lives. As they trust in you, God, may you fill them up. May you bless them. And God, for those of us that are passionate enough to pray, passionate enough to do something about it, God, that today is going to be a day we'd never forget. That we'd remember August the 31st of 2014, when today is the day that we set a charge, that we are going to charge out and passionately pursue what we care most about. So I ask God your blessings upon your people. May we be forever changed because we have visited with you today. It's through Jesus we pray. Amen. Would you give God some praise? I love you, God.